Here we are, Real Recovery Talk. I am your host, Tom Conrad. In today's episode, we have a lovely lady by the name of Peyton.
Hi.
And we have Benjamin B.
What's up, everybody?
All right, first things first, thank you for watching on YouTube. Thank you for listening on the podcast app, whether it be Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play Music, you name it, we're there. If in the end somebody needs to hear or see this information, please feel free to share it with them. And in the end, if you want to reach out to myself or Ben, you can always email us, Tom at realrecoverytalk.com and Ben at realrecoverytalk.com. And we would be more than happy to have a discussion with you about your specific situation, and maybe we can help. Right, Ben?
Correct. Should we mention we were having some email issues this last couple of weeks?
We have been having email issues. So if you have reached out and you haven't gotten a response from us, it's Ben's fault.
Fair. I got no response.
No, we did have some email issues, and it is being fixed as we speak, and hopefully we're back online in the next probably 48 hours. So send it again, and we will get back to you. You can also find us on Facebook at Real Recovery Talk. And if you send us an email and we didn't respond to you, send us a message on Facebook. We've had some people reach out there, and that there's no issues with. So we can get to you on Facebook. Sorry, I had to make sure that I hit record. All right, Peyton, here we are. We're in the lovely Real Recovery Talk studio. We're happy to have you here, and you were generous enough to come on the show and kind of share a little bit about what your experience has been like as an addict and, you know, in your recovery process. So that's what we're here to do.
Okay, sounds good.
I'm going to need you to speak up.
I'm sorry.
All right. I guess I'll start off by saying I'll do a little bit of an introduction. Peyton is somebody that has done 2 tours here at Rock Recovery Center. First tour, and we say tour, it's kind of a laughable thing, but she was here the first time and didn't work out so well, and ended up coming back just a few months ago, and you seem to be in a much different space, and that is, I think, what we want to really hone in on this episode, is discuss kind of what it was like the first time that you were here and your mindset around it versus what it is now. And I think in the end, what it's going to do is paint a picture of progression in a good way. We know the progression of addiction in a bad way. We want the progression of recovery now and what that kind of looks like. So give us a little introduction about yourself, how old you are, where you're from, what your addiction looked like. We don't need to talk a lot about, the past, because we're more solution focused here at realrecoverytalk.com. So let's go ahead and get started.
Okay, my name's Peyton. I'm 20 years old. I'm from Georgia. And what did my addiction look like? It was really rough. A lot of legalities, a lot of problems. I wasn't in the solution.
Can you be more specific?
My addiction took me through breaking the laws, through abuse, through complete mind and body brokenness.
So at what age did you start using?
12 to 15. I dabbled in weed, and then it escalated to Xans and stuff.
Xans is short for?
Xanax.
All right. Ben, go ahead. I know you had something to say.
Yeah, I was going to ask, what was your drug of choice? What were some of the events, so to speak, that led you to come into treatment the first time?
Meth is my real drug of choice, but I was a dumpster for drugs, Xanax, Percocets, weed, everything. And what brought me to rehab the first time or the second time?
The first time, what were some of the events? What made you feel like you needed to go? Were you forced to go? Was it voluntary?
It was voluntary. It was all my decision making. It was just, I hit a rock bottom in jail, and that was enough to scare me out my wits, and I wanted to change.
What landed you in jail?
messing with the wrong crowd and making the wrong decisions, but a lot of abusing drugs and doing anything in my power to get those drugs, which were not good decisions.
So I want to, I guess, and I should have done this at the beginning, just so you know, the primary audience of the people that listen to this is families and loved ones. So you're not talking necessarily to another Peyton or a Ben or a Tom or a Ben or a Tom. You're talking to our parents. You're talking to your parents, families and loved ones that are dealing with somebody like us. And that is, so when you are talking, I want you to think through the lens or talk through the lens of, okay, I'm sharing this message to family members so they can ultimately help their loved one.
Okay.
That might make things easier.
Yeah.
So obviously you were, as you quoted, a dumpster and would use anything and pretty much go to any lengths to attain your drugs and use your drugs. Had a lot of legal issues and stuff like that. You enter into treatment at how old?
The first time?
Yeah.
15.
15 years old. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And talk a little bit about that.
I thought the NA and AA meetings were boring. I didn't do anything anyone said. I still was in this thug mindset, if you'd say. I wasn't ready.
And then from there, you entered into treatment again at what age?
18.
And your mindset?
Still that thug mentality of, as we joked, cash me outside, girl. A little hellion.
Okay. And through this process, I mean, I'm assuming you were going into these treatment centers because you had to, not because you wanted to.
It was because I wanted to. 15, I was a runaway. Home life was really tough, and I kind of wanted an escape, but I wasn't fully ready to, give in to the program.
I like the way that you put that. And then, so after 18 years old, you enter into treatment again at what age?
Now 20, but 19.
Okay. Let's talk. And one thing that I know about you, Peyton, and Ben, you can chime in on this too. Peyton right now is on fire for sobriety. And I feel like once we get into that kind of component, you're going to just start rattling stuff off. So that's why I want to get into that, because that's where you have so much to offer. All of our situations are unique in the sense of we caused a shitstorm of destruction around us, whether it was you, myself, Ben, or anybody else that's been on this podcast. We're all cut from the same cloth, but our solution and our recovery, it's unique to ourselves. But we have a lot to offer a lot of people. So let's just get right into that. Go ahead, Ben.
Like Tom was saying, I think in Peyton's, from my perspective, I should say, one of the reasons I really wanted Peyton on here is so that we could paint a picture, like Tom said, of her progression. She just, I'll quote her, she said it, not me, the cash me outside girl. Like, literally, that's who I'm sitting next to. It's awesome. But she comes to us the first time, and that was because you went to jail, you just said, right?
Yeah.
And the consequences, and it was a rock bottom for you at the time. But the progression, literally, just to kind of paint a picture from our perspective at Rock, I'll say it like this. We politely had to ask her to leave before she was done with treatment the first time, correct?
Yeah, I got kicked out.
So, but... And I won't say anything on here that I haven't already said to Peyton, like to her face, but like I literally told her a few weeks ago, we had to discuss like whether or not we were even going to bring you back, because even though she was here voluntarily, because a lot of people just want that like relief, like, oh my God, I just got out of jail. God, get me out of this one, please. Let me run away. Let me get some relief. But what she's done differently this time is it's just night and day. Like, we were not sure if we wanted to bring her back at Rock. We literally had a staff discussion. We have a Monday clinical meeting, and we brought Peyton's name up. Peyton's back in detox and looking to come back to Rock, and it was like a vote, and we had to like battle to get you back in here. because of behavioral issues, straight up. But like, and now I kind of joke about it. Like when I'll bring your name up a lot of times. You don't know this yet, but I'll be like, because they'll poke fun at, sometimes we bring in some quote unquote tough cases. And we're like, look at Peyton. And they're like, oh, you're always going to rub that one in because look how good you're doing now. Like we literally had concerns on our end, even bringing you back. So that first time, from your perspective, what are some of the things that you did not do well the first time that you were in treatment?
I was codependent on some people that weren't good influences and were doing the same things I was doing. I also got in fights, and I had my pride and ego up my butt because I thought I was this little thug. I was ran the show and everything's about me and all of that. I didn't take any suggestions. I thought it's my way or no way. I still was stuck in that thug mentality of, that's it.
So what happened to where the switch flipped? Because you come in the second time, and I think right off the rip we noticed a difference, and it wasn't a whole lot of time had passed in between. Talk a little bit about that. Why did you come in so differently this second time than you did the first?
My rock bottom was a lot lower this time. I think a lot of us have to hit a rock bottom, but sometimes you have to dig deep in that rock bottom to really get yourself to a point where you want to change everything.
So you hit that rock bottom and you know that, okay, I need to make a change. What's going on in your mind? What's your mindset around it? Because, you have 3 previous treatment attempts. Arguably, none of them were successful. And here you're in a position to where you're about to enter into treatment again. What's your mindset around that?
I was just hopeless. I was beaten down, and nobody was enabling me at this point in time. My parents weren't bailing me out of jail. They weren't letting me live at their house anymore. I just was beaten into submission, I'd say.
And so when you walk into the doors the second time, did you have a feeling of relief or gratitude or any what was that like?
I was very grateful that you guys allowed me to come back, but I was also so lost and so scared of everything, to be honest.
Yeah.
I was going to ask if fear was a major driver.
Yeah.
You could see the fear in her eyes when she came back. The consequences were really piling up. Do you mind touching on some of the consequences of this latest rock bottom?
Yeah. Let's start with, I lived with a meth head like myself for a while, and unfortunately we were doing some illegal things, which was credit fraud, and then also I was getting abused daily. The man I was seeing was my drug dealer, and I was getting beaten every day. So that are the 2 biggest consequences. Also, my family wasn't associating with me at all. They just had it up to here, so there was no enabling. There was no, you're allowed to come home, you're allowed to have your car. No, none of that. At this point, they were done. And that helped me.
So fast forward to today, you're coming up on how much clean time?
122 days.
That's amazing. You come in, you're beaten into submission, your words, and you're in a place now where a change has to be made. The clinical component, obviously, Ben and I talk about it all the time. There's the therapeutic component. You have a therapist. You're working through a lot of the traumas and stuff that you went through. I want to talk more about the program component of it, because that seems, at least from Ben and I's perspective, where you've shined in all areas, but that's where it has seemed very apparent that you have this mindset now of, I need to help other women. And so I want to get into that a little bit, and how much that has helped you stay sober for 122 days.
Yeah, that's helped me a lot.
So when we talk about the program, and, for anybody watching or listening, we're very 12-step based people. We do believe wholeheartedly in AA and NA, any 12-step programs. But that doesn't mean that that's the only way. There's obviously many ways to get clean and sober, and we don't throw stones at any of them. We just happen to be 12-step people, and that's what we teach and encourage here at Rock Recovery Center. Talk a little bit about your mindset around the 12 steps in the program previous this time. Like, what was your thoughts and opinions about it versus what it is now?
I thought it was a load of crap. I didn't think that some steps were going to be able to help me. Like, I didn't believe in the program at all. And I was completely resistant against it. I was like, I'm not getting a sponsor. I'm not doing these steps. This is for losers. Like, F this. And then now it was like, well, if this is the only way, then I'm going to do it that way kind of deal. And I tried it and I instantly like grabbed onto it. Like, I just chased it as much as I chased the drugs at this point.
And what did that look like for you when you say you grabbed onto it? Like, what did that look like?
I was meeting with my sponsor like twice a week, and we were reading the book and we were really getting into it. She also had me doing worksheets on the steps, and I just did every single thing she said to do because I picked a sponsor that I wanted to be like, someone that was leading meetings and had 3 sponsees and was actually killing it and had years of sobriety.
And when you went and got this sponsor, I mean, we hear it all the time, and I'm sure you have too, Peyton. When we have discussions around sponsorship, I'll talk to somebody that has 6 months of sobriety. Hey, you got a sponsor yet? No, haven't found the right person. No, I haven't. I had one, but we broke up, so on and so forth. Why do you feel like there's such a what's the right word? Ben, help me out here.
Why there's so much hesitancy?
Yeah, I think hesitancy is a good word for this. Why is there so much hesitancy when it comes to somebody getting a sponsor? Use your example of you grabbed onto it. What did that look like when getting your sponsor?
I think there's so much hesitancy because people want to catch a vibe with someone or they want to click with this person, but you really just need somebody that you admire their sobriety. And I didn't even know I didn't even know her from Adam, but I kind of saw her lead a meeting and I was like, that's who I want. That's somebody I want. I want a strong woman. I don't think you should go off of your first thinking of, oh, I don't like this person. I don't like how they speak. I don't like what they're saying. Da 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 da. I think you should just pick someone and go with it. I truly believe that.
Bam. We do not have time to take applications. Here, let me get your resume, sponsor. Like, at the end of the day, I'm with Peyton on that 100% because the reality of the situation is, myself included, folks in early recovery, we can't even identify who or what we need. Like, Peyton just said it brilliantly. Like, just pick somebody and just go with it. Because who am I in early recovery to decide, like, who's going to be good for me? I probably, in most cases, need the exact opposite of what I think is going to be good for me.
Yeah, 100%.
It's the unfortunate truth that that's what we see a lot. And I like what you said there. I think people are waiting to catch a vibe with somebody. And it's like, it's not like you're not dating this person. You're not going, you're not going to marry this person. There's no vibes to be caught. Do they have something to offer you? And arguably, and this is where Ben and I we go back and forth on this. Ben and Peyton, my thoughts about this too. You have 122 days sober now, and you're sponsoring a girl, correct?
Yeah.
And she's on her 4th step.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. And I think that this involves a few minutes of discussion. few and far between would I sign off on somebody with 122 days sober sponsoring somebody. For whatever reason, and I don't know why, I would sign off on you sponsoring somebody at 122 days sober. And the reason that in most cases I wouldn't is because there's no experience with sobriety. You haven't had much opportunity to experience hardship in sobriety. A lot of times, I've seen it. People sponsor, they're taking somebody through the steps and they get fired from their job, and the first thing they do is go back to using drugs. And it's like, well, you're sponsoring somebody. What right do you have to be sponsoring somebody when you just went through a hardship and the very first thing that you did was you reverted back to your drug of choice? Or a death in the family or financial insecurities or whatever the case is. But for whatever reason, I think you're in a place now, and it's probably based off of my experience with you before, that allows me to have that mindset of, I think she would be a good sponsor for somebody today. Ben, what are your thoughts on that?
I think you just said Ben's right, is what I just heard.
No, I didn't say that.
I'm just kidding. No, opinions do run to extremes on this for sure. But just like Tom was saying, that getting to see the change in Peyton, because the same thing happened to me. Like I personally didn't think I was ready to sponsor somebody. And I thought that I had nothing to offer. And I don't know if I've ever said it on the podcast, but I'm going to go ahead and quote my sponsor, because I went to my sponsor and I said, hey man, I don't think I'll ever be able to do for somebody what you did for me. And he's like, no, you need to go find a sponsee now. And I was kind of freaking out, like, oh my God, someone's going to die if I'm sponsoring them. But he, quote, pardon my French here, but he said, don't worry, Ben, you can't fuck them up any worse than they already are. So, but with that being said, what happened for me is that all of a sudden there was a sense of responsibility where, like, I'm sitting with another man and I have to relay a message to them, where I went from being the student to having to be the teacher. And I don't even know that I fully believed what I was saying at the time, but I began to believe it the more that I said it to somebody else. And it was almost because I found myself, for lack of a better way to put it, like, I can't be a hypocrite. Like, I'm like, hey man, you need to call me every day. Hey man, you need to do your inventory every day. Hey, we need to meet up this week and read the doctor's opinion, Bill's story, there's a solution, or whatever chapter we're on. And I'm thinking to myself, here I am giving this person instructions to live a life of sobriety. And then I catch myself taking my own inventory. Here I am handing out these suggestions. Like the whole, what's the saying? Do as I say, not as I do. Well, like, my ego internally started to hurt, like, because I was catching myself, like, I'm handing out all these suggestions to this guy on how he should be living his life, but I'm not. Therefore, I unintentionally, or maybe intentionally, consciously, unconsciously, stepped up my own game. Like, there's just a sense of responsibility, and I think the best word to tie into it would be purpose. Like, how much responsibility and purpose do you feel for this young lady that you're now sponsoring?
It definitely holds me accountable, like you were saying. It definitely, like, I'm sitting here telling her to pray, so I need to remember that I need to pray. And then also, it does give me a sense of purpose. Like, this woman looks up to my sobriety, like, what can I give her? My job is only to put her hand in God's, and that's what I plan on doing.
This is and this is cool because it gives a real perspective of how really quickly somebody can change if their mindset changes. In your situation, like, just a short period of time ago, had you come out and said that, I would have been like, Peyton, you need to go do a drug test because you're taking something. And now here she is, and just that phrase of my job is to put their hand in, how's that go, your hand in the hand of God's,
and leave it there.
I mean, that's just a testament of what can happen when somebody is ready to change. And obviously for you, you're taking advantage of it. I do want to transition now because You're obviously in a place now where you have a solid foundation of recovery. You're sponsoring a girl, but there's a big change about to come up in your life. Let's talk about that for a little bit. You know, you've been here in Florida for a period of time, and now you're transitioning back home.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I'm going home Friday. That is going to be a big change to be back in a environment that's a little hard to progress in, because here I'm around everybody that's making changes and progressing and moving on in life. And back home, I have an alcoholic mother, so that's going to be a little hard to not take on the responsibility of parenting her again. But I do have a strong program, and then in addition, also, I don't have to fight anything. I don't have to participate in anything I choose to. You know, I cease fighting everything: alcohol, drugs, my parents, everything.
She's quoting the big book, Tom. I got goosebumps. Who are you sitting next to me? You cease fighting everything and everyone. I think it's important, too, just to kind of show the miracles that can happen here. And we were just talking about this before the podcast, but like when she first got here, some of those charges that she got charged with recently, she was actually just telling us a lot of them got dropped. And I believe, and I've seen it time and time again, the evidence is there that if you just do the right thing, put recovery first, like these miracles happen. I always have a saying, like, probation is really easy when you're doing the right thing. Probation is super hard when you're not doing the right thing. And like, here she is making the right decisions, taking the suggestions, and all of a sudden, like, her charges are being dropped left and right from what it sounds like to me. All that fear that she had is all working out.
Yeah, and, you know, the most recent charges, I don't think a little bit of extra accountability is going to hurt me, you know? So if I do get probation for the next case, it's just more accountability.
Listen to that perception change. Probation is accountability.
Well, Peyton, listen, we're running out of time here. I do want to say that we know you're going to be successful, but in the end, obviously, you run into hardships, you run into hard times, you know you can call us, right?
Yeah, of course.
All right. Ben, any final thoughts?
No, super proud of this girl. I wish everybody could see firsthand what we've gotten to see, because it's incredible. I don't think hearing this, seeing this on a podcast really puts it into perspective of what it really is and how powerful it is.
All right, Peyton, thank you for coming on and sharing.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you for watching this episode of Real Recovery Talk. In the end, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can always reach out to us, Tom at realrecoverytalk.com and Ben at realrecoverytalk.com. That is it. We will see y'all later.